I'm talking with really a legend in Los Angeles, a flute legend. May I say that, Paul? I'm speaking with flutist Paul Freed. This guy's a one man CD machine, that's for sure. We're going to talk about that in a bit, but we're talking a great career in music and professional classical music in the studio world in Los Angeles. Knows everybody in town, and everybody knows Paul Freed. Hello, Paul. How are you? We're up an
I,
afternoon,
I
Friday afternoon.
have a chance to talk with you.
Yeah, very, very good. Uh, Paul, what we're here for is to talk a little bit about your latest, your ninth CD, a Mozart CD, Mozart Concerti, some concerti for flute, and then one for the harp and flute concerto. We'll get into that in just a minute with the virtuosi de Los Angeles, which are in fact your pals, the wonderful, the best, the greatest studio musicians in Los Angeles. I took a look and went, ooh, yeah,
Yes.
on that CD. What is this? First, let's get a little overview. Paul, give me a little bit of an overview about your life and career and why the hell you have stuck in there all this time.
Well, I'm kind of a lucky guy the way I see it. I got off to such a great start in music. My father being a musician,
Mm.
him kind of pointing me towards if I was going to play the flute. The truth is, my father played all the woodwinds, and I had two older brothers. So if my father would play the clarinet, we would have the flute, oboe, clarinet, and bassoon right in our family. And because I had the two older brothers. So that's what we did. We had a quartet. When I was 8 years old, about seven and a half, I started playing the flute.
Mm.
And he had me, listening to Julius Baker already, all the Bach sonatas, the recordings and everything. So, the story truly is a funny story. But when we were in New York, in New Jersey, this, oh, I was in Las Vegas at that time, but we moved back to New Jersey. My father had a restaurant. So who happens to walk into the restaurant for lunch? Julius
No.
Baker. And and my father, how parents are want to show off their kids. He knew it was Julius Baker. He knew it was Julius Baker because my father played all the Broadway shows. And he knew New
Ah,
York, the scene in New York. So Baker comes. He says, "Listen, I want you to hear my son play a little bit, if you could." So okay, Baker agreed. So he goes back to the back, and I played some stuff for him, maybe a little Mozart, maybe some Bach. Who the heck knows? He immediately wanted me to study with him at Juilliard.
ah,
So uh, my brothers and I auditioned at Juilliard, and the audition was for me. But anyway, they said, "Listen, what's wrong with these other kids? Are you kidding?" They gave all of us full scholarships. All of them got full
I had no
scholarships
idea.
to
That's
Juilliard Prep School.
amazing. That
And
is an
uh,
amazing story.
that was it. I was 8 years old and studying with Julius Baker, and Barry was studying with Harold Gomberg, the greatest oboist in the world,
Mm.
and Steve was with William Polisi, one of the great bassoonists, playing principal flute bassoon in the New York Philharmonic. That's how we started. So yeah,
Very
so
modest beginnings, just like
real
boom, right to the
beginnings.
top.
So I mean, it's a crazy story.
And by
Uh, when I was 11, I probably auditioned for the first members of the Boston Symphony for the first time when I was about 11 or 12.
yeah.
Where my parents felt I should be going to Tanglewood, and so that didn't happen. They said it was too small, but I did go there later. But when I was 13 and 14, I went to the Music Academy of the West. And we 8 to 11 living in New York and at Juilliard Prep School and all this crazy stuff going on, playing on the Arthur Godfrey show and playing concertos, already playing with orchestras, playing concerto when I was 10, and then we moved to Las Vegas, and it was like, what the heck, now Las Vegas is 60 city of 65,000 people, like a total career mashup, you know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
There's your career gone, so and so, but it really wasn't. I still continue to practice and play, and that we had some great players that I met in Las Vegas. My oldest friend is Richard Solis, who played 17 years first horn in the Cleveland Orchestra. So we met in Las Vegas in fifth grade shop class. So
Amazing.
crazy stories, and continued by playing with the Las Vegas High School band and whatever the heck it was, Music Academy of the West. Then I went to the Music Academy. When I was 16, I got into Tanglewood, which was great. That was fantastic. I mean, that really it opened my eyes. I
Mm.
just thought, this is it. This is great. This is fantastic. What a place to play. All of that. I didn't necessarily think I was going to be with the Boston Symphony later, but it wouldn't be the worst thing to happen. Yeah. So when I was like 16, I was also offered a job with the Utah Symphony because I had been playing for Maurice
William
Abravanel.
Bravanel, yeah.
Yes, and he was a wonderful conductor. And the Utah Symphony was an outstanding orchestra, but I did not want to get stuck in Utah. I just wanted, so I went back to New York, Juilliard again, the regular college level, and then I got into the Boston Symphony in April before I graduated in June into the SO, which was like whoa, that was a big deal even at Juilliard. It was kind of funny.
Wow.
So the BSO was a hell of a nice start. It really couldn't hurt.
Yeah.
It wasn't my perfect position there. I wanted to be principal flute. Wasn't. They had a kind of big wall to climb there, and
Sure.
I was looking. The first woman flutist, the first woman to ever get a principal position in any major symphony orchestra was Doria Anthony Dwyer. Okay,
Yes.
so she was the principal flutist, and came in there, and I was promoted twice, and I finally felt the best thing to move on. Played in Pittsburgh 3 years principal, but along the way, I also had some crazy fun times. I took an audition for the Berlin Philharmonic after Galway left. This was kind
Everybody
of a
does
story.
that.
Want to hear this story? Okay, this is great. Okay, so they invite me to come down, play at Carnegie Hall, and they tell me that Ozal was in the audience. So I'm thinking, wow, this is wild, So I go out to the stage, and I start playing some. I think I'd forgotten the piano part for one of the Mozart concertos I was going to play. So someone went up to get it, and so half the audience, half the Berlin Philharmonic, plus Von Karajan and Ozawa in the audience, in an empty Carnegie Hall. So other than these people, so I went out and I was very relaxed. I was thinking, this is crazy. This is so much fun. How can you set anything up better than this? Nice opportunity to play a few notes. So I played. The slow movement from the Bach B minor sonata. I just wanted to play something that would be beautiful, get my feet wet, see what that crazy hall sounded like, empty with just me on that stage. It sounded great. I must say, empty Carnegie Hall with me out there and all these people from Berlin. And then Von Karajan came up and played piano, accompanied me in one of the Mozart concertos.
Wow.
And he didn't play that well, but it was still fun.
Well, he had another gig,
That's right. Yeah, he didn't. That wasn't his day job. So we then I went on the stage and played the excerpts, and played well and was invited to Berlin. Okay, and this was in November of 1976, and in December they invited me to Berlin, and I thought I was going to get a real great chance, and turned out to be it was like auditions for the X Games for flutists. I was waiting around. And they said, okay, tomorrow you'll play your spiel. Tomorrow. So, okay, great. I had one rehearsal and then the concert. We did Don Juan to Eulenspiegel and Mozart number 40 with Von Karajan.
Yeah.
And I got a standing bell for to Eulenspiegel. It was a nice experience. I didn't get the gig. It was a little frustrating. It was like a roller coaster that crashed at the bottom. You know what I'm saying?
And you had to go home to Boston.
Well, yeah. I mean, I had a great job.
Really?
Listen, what's the problem here? You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to have to move you a little bit forward. Get you and me to L.A. Get us to Los Angeles.
So
please.
You know what? I mean, I kind of like. It was fun. I just did it for the hell of it. A lot of things I just do for the hell of it, And it always turns out better when I don't put too much pressure on yourself.
That's right.
That's what I believe in auditions. I find usually if you can teach it, you'd say, look, you find any single reason you can just be yourself out there. You don't have to play better than you do. All you have to do is play the way you play.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Don't ask an impossible journey. Don't ask for yourself to do something you can't normally do.
And also the idea that the world does not survive or collapse based on your audition for such and such. It's just it's one of the, it's like whatever.
Exactly.
It's nothing. It's not a big deal really in the scheme of things.
Really.
And what I mean by that is when the attitude is that way, then you really can be yourself. You can be comfortable. I want to get in a little plug about your son Alexander, who just turned 13. I interviewed him a couple of years. Oh, just turned 12. Oh.
Right.
Anyway, violinists. How'd you let him get away? First of all,
that?
how'd you let him get away to violin? What's that?
Well, it's a funny story. We were at a little Purim celebration, and he looked at this violin that this woman was playing. He said, I'd like to play that. I said, he said, okay, we'll try. And I didn't want to force the flute, to be honest with you. Flute is a really tough business to make it go of it. You go to Podunk, Idaho, and there's 200 flutists there taking an audition for an orchestra that has a 5-week season. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just crazy. So I mean, that's why all of these flute orchestras have proliferated because there's so many
Mm.
flutists
Mm.
and no room for them to play in an orchestra.
Mm.
Unfortunate. But, so for a violin, another story. Your violin, you got 23 pieces, places in an orchestra,
Mm.
23. A
Mm.
flute section is three players, Only one gets to play first, or maybe two, like I did with the Boston and backup.
Yeah.
And, that's it, So if you want to play first flute, you got to have a lot of luck on your side. All the things have to kind of fall into
Yeah.
place. And for Alex, we're looking at, a solo career if possible, playing
Hmm.
string quartets if possible. End up like Joey Silverstein did. God forbid, wouldn't be the worst thing to
Yeah.
happen. Play first flute, first play concertmaster in a place like Boston or
Hmm.
Philadelphia or Pittsburgh or
Hmm.
one of these great
Yeah.
orchestras, and do a little conducting this side. You
Yeah.
can do anything from various
What,
positions.
and it's also about Paul. It's the why I'm intrigued by you. And I mentioned the word entrepreneur. We in the arts really are entrepreneurs in many ways, and also we have to be, as you mentioned. A whole slug of flutists are still being graduated from major schools of music. They got to do something. And what I'm seeing in these young people in their 20s and 30s is they're understanding. Oh, now I'll create something. I'll do something. I'll
That's
make
it.
my life.
Really, you have to do that, and it's great to see it. Actually,
Hmm.
there's various ways you can make a career as a flutist. There's a jazz flutist. There are various things you can do on a
Yeah.
flute. You're wrong,
Yeah.
but it's if there's an audition and it's for a principal position and you want to play that thing, you have to just kind of like best to get there early. That guy did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's much easier to take auditions when you get one boom like that,
Yeah.
than it is later on in your life and you have like there's great expectations put on your shoulders because of what you did when you were a kid.
Yeah.
That's tougher,
Yeah, yeah. Now
So
we talked a little bit before taping about it, and it's an up and down thing in the studio world in Los Angeles. But as with your little chamber orchestra that you put together for the Mozart CD, these are just crackerjack, first class musicians. They sit down, they read, they play. It's done. That's the same thing in the studio. You don't waste time. Anybody who's seen any of the John Williams recordings, where you see these musicians sit down and it's like one take. That's it. It's done.
that's
It's
it.
over.
Yeah, and everything is a take. The first time it's a take, and the last time it's a take. And you might get the best thing. Usually, you get the best thing the first or second time.
Hmm.
After you keep doing it over and over again,
Yeah.
usually it's not going to be as good.
Yeah.
And
Starts.
for me in these concerto, these days, I did one concerto for each 3 hour session we had.
Yeah.
So we didn't have that much time. You've got three movements to do,
Uh-huh.
and you have 2.5 hours when you figure the time off. It's not a
Sure.
full 3 hours. Of course, everyone gets time, breaks time, and everything
Yeah.
else. So everyone just has to know their stuff. And I always, but we got pretty lucky, I think, overall.
Yeah, and just to kind of to do my bit as a critic, everybody out there in Southern California who's watching this wonderful interview with Paul Freed, by the way, thank you for being so animated. I'm going to put up a review of this Mozart CD, and it'll run beneath this video interview and all kinds of other things. And what impresses me is the level of the playing on this CD of Mozart. It's right. It's so LA. I mean, it's just exact these, and it's a chamber group. It's a tiny little chamber. There's a wonderful
One and
photograph of
apart
it.
is really
Yeah,
unusual,
one
and
to apart.
but you
Yeah,
don't sense that. Wow, one and
yeah,
apart strings, two
yeah,
horns, two oboes. There it is.
yeah,
Nine players.
yeah,
But the way it was recorded and everything else, I'm pretty happy
yeah,
with the overall
yeah.
result.
So I'm going to speak to that in a written review that's going to show up underneath this video. But let's see if I've got any more questions for you. We talked about Alex. I interviewed him to my great delight. I'll never forget that interview a year or so ago at age, what, 10, 11, whatever he
Yeah,
was.
10. I guess he was 10. Yeah.
Because he was going to play a Bach or something, a Bach concerto up here in
Bach
Santa
double
Barbara.
concerto with Tamsin Basicky. Yeah.
And he had such a, that's right, the double. And he had he was such a mature young man and so serious about his intentions and where he was going to go with his life. So you have nothing to worry about with Alex, that's for sure.
He is just doing well. I'm proud of him. Very proud of him.
Now, we mentioned just for all of the flutists out there, one of these 9 CDs is a CD that was kind of from. You give me this little story again. It's a CD. It's called Paul Freed Wales. Go.
Yeah, I actually made a recording when I was 17 years old, and I thought we could call it Paul Freed Wales. At the time, included the Huey Fantasy and some other nice works. I don't know what happened to that recording, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
But this one, because this CD consists of a variety of pieces that I wrote for my flute 25 my exercise book, excuse me.
Yeah.
And so it's the 19 caprices that are part of the exercise book, and I try to write them in a variety of styles. Like there's one per work that's very much a French work, and there's another work called "The Cry of the Mountain" that's can be played with a timpani or by itself. And I try to also include a variety of technically playable but challenging type of things in these caprices that I wrote. And the complete name is 25 Warm Notes and Caprices, and it can be purchased at my website, if I can say that.
You can, and why don't you give it to us? Because I was going to do it. Give us both.
There. The recordings, they're also most of my recordings are also on iTunes and on CD Baby.
Yeah.
And
by the way, it's paulfriedflute.com.
That's correct.
What I wanted you to do.
Flute.com, of course, no spaces or anything.
Yeah.
And that's my website, and you can hear sound bites of my Mozart concertos there and everything else.
Yeah.
And I'm happy overall. That's the key. If you can look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, I've done what I wanted to do in my life, and I've done a lot of it. If I haven't done all of it, I've done a hell of a lot of it. And I continue to try to do more. I usually try to make a recording once a year, and we'll see about this year. I may make another one. I'm thinking of making recording with flute and strings, the Debussy Trio, the Roussel Trio, the Beethoven Trio Serenade, perhaps another trio by Beethoven for flute, bassoon, and piano, and then the Gounod Petite Symphony second movement, which is a gorgeous piece. Do you know that piece?
Yes, absolutely delightful.
That little movement is a beautiful, beautiful flute moment. I would dedicate that to Julius Baker, because when I was 10 years old, I played that at Juilliard.
That sounds like a very nice number 10 CD coming up in the works. What is it about making these CDs? I'm asking you a profound question. What is it? Why
do I feel the need to do it? Just because, I got wound up really tight when I was just a kid, and it hasn't been the easiest road always, but overall, I'm pretty darn happy, live where I want to live. I love California. I play quite a bit of stuff, just like I love to do, principal flute of orchestras. I could play a couple of more recitals here and there, but I also want to let my recordings speak for me. I send these recordings all around the world. So that's a kind of a way of sending out,
absolutely,
your sound and everything about you, my recordings. I've got there's the Praha Radio in Prague. I sent them some of the Mozart and a couple of things. They asked for I have like 14 recordings. They wanted all my recordings. I have the 9 on my label. I've got 3 easy listening albums on Simplicity Records, which are fun, nice pieces, actually. Some of them arrangements of Bernstein tunes, etc.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Nice.
So they wanted all my stuff. I sent it, which is cool, and they like it a lot. So I've sent it to various, all around the world, and I've done it myself, and so that takes time and energy. But it's still worth it. And it's better than trying to give it to someone. No one cares about your stuff like you do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, there's something about legacy. This is a recorded legacy.
Exactly. I mean, that's what it's all about now. It's the more recordings I make and get out there, the more, and I've gotten good feedback. That's the important thing. And I like that. So.
Paul Fried, I want to ask you one last quick question. Give me a quick, short answer. We're way over our 12 to 15 minutes. What is this about flute lessons on Skype?
Well, I do give.
What an idea! What a great idea!
I do give flute lessons on Skype. The only problems with that situation is that you cannot play duets because of the timing. Okay.
Oh yes, I see.
But I mean, if we tried to play duets, probably wouldn't work out. Can you whistle? No, I won't try to play duet with you now. But in any case, when you try to play duets, this is a timing problem. But everything else can work.
Yeah.
I mean, you can play, I can listen, I can analyze your playing and give you some ideas. I can play, you can listen, and you can think, that's how maybe I should play it, etc.
Well, I had to ask deliberately because even my conducting teacher, Lawrence Leighton Smith, at a certain point toward the end of his career, was considering doing conducting lessons with Skype.
I see.
And so, in other words, it's an idea that is, you can project yourself to a whole lot more people, obviously, and you can teach. It's not quite the same as one-on-one, person-to-person, but it's good.
Oh, absolutely. As long as like we've had a real good connection here. We're talking. I've had problems on Skype
So
occasionally
have
where the
I.
person gets stuck, in kind of like, whatever, their mouth is wide open, and you think, oh my God, I feel like I'm in a dentist office and I'm like a dentist and I have to look down there. It's a
Yeah.
weird looking thing when that happens. But overall, it's still possible to learn, I think,
Yeah, yeah.
without.
And I've been there. And by the way, you just did another major clue. It's still possible to learn. We're getting old and we're still learning. I'm having a great time. I'm
Great.
I'm,
No, I
I'm
never
poor as a
suck at
church
it.
mouse, but I'm having a great time with my life.
I try to convince my son Alex, you never reach a level. You always are striving for something more. There's always something more that
Absolutely,
you can do.
absolutely.
You know.
Paul Fried, flutist extraordinaire, entrepreneur, major musician, American musician in our country, living in the Los Angeles area. What a great pleasure it has been to talk with you, as it was with your son a year or so ago. I'm sure I'll be talking with him again.
Great. I
He's
hope
just
so.
getting yeah.
You'll hear from him, I'm sure. He's
Great
doing
fun,
great.
and we'll put up the CD and we'll see if we can get some sales for you.
Thank you so much,
Sure,
Dan. Great talking
my
with you.
pleasure. All right.
Thank you. Bye bye.